should be pretty close, Max, right?
Pretty darn close. Okay, don't you like the way I zero beat? I just love to do that.
Newer hands say, what are you doing?
All right, so first is K6ZTA Vaughn, followed by Dennis W6DQ, followed by Ron K2RP, and then Dave WI6R. Okay? Okay, keep going. Next is Mike W7MS, followed by Phil N6WHK, and Skip K6LGL, and then Chuck N6AF. Okay? Nope. Next is Larry W6WUH, followed by Bob WA9JIB, then John K6KOI, and then Matthew N4DLA. Okay? Keep going. Okay, Art KB7LOQ, then Kevin WA6JKN, followed by Dave WJ6W, then George W6YEC, and then K6RCL DJ. Copy?
I got the list down.
Okay, let me just check quickly. Anybody else want to get on the list? Okay, listen, Max, I have to QRT now. I need to talk to the wife. So my answer is the 3001 for vintage stuff. But when I'm running the modern stuff, it's a KPA 1500. Okay. Thank you very much, Max, for taking it. Much appreciated, and I'll see you guys next week. KG6HN from N6KN. Adios.
Thanks, Rocco.
See you, Rocco.
Okay, Rocco, thanks for taking all those earlies. We got a pretty good list here. Looks like at least 20. So, well, let's see. I don't really want to start the merry-go-round again, so with this many check-ins, I'm just going to take command control and start the roundtable a little bit early. The host gets to do that. So, welcome everybody to the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable. Well, wait a minute. Is there anybody else looking to check in? Please call me now, KJ6HN. Nothing heard. All right. Welcome everybody to the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable. This is Max, KJ6HN, in Darwin, California. I will be the host for this evening's roundtable. Tonight the station I'm using is a Signal 1 transceiver and an Alpha 77 SX amplifier, a D104 microphone, and a homemade resonant dipole cut to this frequency made out of 12-gauge flex weave fine strand antenna wire. We meet every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. with an informal gathering at 6:30 Pacific time to record an early check-in list that will be relayed to the host station for the roundtable this evening. This roundtable meets on or about 3895 kilocycles, plus or minus, depending on whether the frequency is occupied or QRM is present, or any variations in our vintage VFOs. And oh boy, does it sound good tonight. I might not even need to be the amplifier, but I'm the host, so I'm going to keep it on. To check into this roundtable, you must be using a radio that was manufactured in or before 1980 or be homebrewed with equivalent technology. Transistor, tube, or hybrid radios are welcome as they were manufactured in 1980 or before. However, if you're a first-time check-in, you may use a modern radio for the purpose of inquiring about joining this group and obtaining a vintage radio. This group is a great resource for finding and repairing vintage equipment. We encourage vintage radio newcomers. New check-ins will automatically be moved to the top of the list. We have a website at groups.io/g/vintage-SSB with many station photos and files regarding vintage single sideband equipment. Our group also has an email reflector. If you would like to access the website and the reflector email, send an email to Mike, K6ZSR. His email address is mike@k6zsr.com. We also host a live video simulcast via Zoom. Simulcast is active during the roundtable session. To join these Zoom sessions, send an email to Dennis, W6DQ. His address is w6dq@arrl.net. He'll provide you with an ID and password and full instructions on how to join us with or without a webcam. Enjoy seeing other videos and chat sidebars going on simultaneously with the roundtable. I won't mention KFS because propagation is too good tonight. We have a discussion topic that we call the question of the evening at each roundtable. You are invited to participate as part of your check-in. Tonight's question of the evening will be announced shortly. If you have any suggestions for future questions of the evening, please email them to mark@isadona.net. At the end of each roundtable, there's a Golden Cup Award that is given to a roundtable member who was singled out because of some outstandingly interesting, funny, informative, or otherwise comments made during their check-in. Before we begin, are there any announcements only of interest to vintage single sideband radio topics?
My wife watched every bit of it, but I hadn't watched any of it.
Are there any other stations wishing to check in at this time? Alrighty then, here comes the question of the evening, which I don't know if it's been asked or at least in this way. So here goes. Many of us use a linear amplifier for greater talk power with our vintage transmitters. Some may have more than one. What is your preferred number one go-to amplifier and why? And is it hollow state, solid state, hybrid, or home brew? So that is the question. I might repeat it if we get any more new check-ins, but anyway, that's the question as I wrote it, as I have it. So let us know what you think about your linear amplifier. So let's start the roundtable over to Vaughn, K6ZTA. And then Vaughn over to Dennis, W6DQ. Dennis over to Ron, K2RP. Ron over to WI6R, who did not respond last time. And then Dave, rather. And then Dave back over to me. So over to you, Vaughn, K6ZTA from KJ6HN in the group.
All right, Max, thank you. Yeah, KJ6HN, K6ZTA in Woodland Hills. Handle is Vaughn, Victor Oscar November, and we're using our 100V and driving our one and only SB 220. So that's my choice, and so I'm sticking to it. And we're doing about probably doing about 700 or 800 watts on peaks, guessing here. And let's see, we're using an inverted V at 55 feet, and I think the grounds are working well, working really good because signals are good tonight. And I'll keep it short and turn it over to you, Dennis. W6DQ, K6ZTA.
All right, Vaughn, thank you very much. K6ZTA and the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable. W6DQ here, Dennis and Inyo Kern. And we're running the KWM 380 along with the Alpha 87A out to a 160-meter horizontal loop at 50 feet. And I really was trying to get the Signal 1 CX11 on the air tonight, but I'm not getting any output from it, so I got to go put it on the bench and check it out, see what's going on there. Great question. I don't think that question's ever been asked before, Max. I don't believe I've ever recalled that. And my go-to amplifier that I like the most is this Alpha 87. This is the 87A. This is a great amplifier. Runs a pair of 3CX 800 A7s. 1600 watts plate dissipation right there. I can run legal limit, key down all day and all night. It's pretty amazing amplifier, and it's auto tuning. It'll tune up in a matter of seconds, probably less than a second to tune up. But overall, as much as I like that amplifier, I like the 30S1 because it's so quiet, and that's a brute of an amplifier. 4CX 1000. I have not done a modification to it to use the 1500. The 8877, it's still the original 4CX1000, which I think is adequate for what I use it for. It's a nice amplifier, and it is absolutely silent, and I think that's its really nice feature. Amongst all of my amplifiers, I've just taken toll. I've got 12 different amplifiers here. Actually, 13. A baker's dozen. I just forgot one. The HF80. I forgot that amplifier, but I'll stick with the Alpha 87A. So, Max, thanks for the question tonight. Thanks for hosting. Bodacious signal down here, as does everyone else. The conditions are just superb. Everybody is sounding really, really great. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ron, K2RP, from W6DQ.
Okay, W6DQ in the group. K2RP, Ron and Encinitas. An interesting topic, Max. Good thinking. I also have not heard it before. I'm not a big amplifier guy. Well, first of all, the rig here is a Swan 175 barefoot to a T5RV in inverted V configuration. About 50 feet in the middle. And it'd be 104 microphone. Let's see. I actually have, I've just looked around, I have 5 amps that are on the air now that are I can use. So one of them is the one I use the most, is a Kenwood 922 Alpha. I have 6 operating positions that are switchable as far as antennas, and they all run through the amplifier, which can be bypassed, of course, and a Drake 2700 tuner. So the amp is always in the circuit, and the way I control it is I just have a foot switch. So when I need to use the amp, I just use the foot switch, and it connects easily to all the different rates. The other one that's dedicated is I have a 30L1 for my S line. I have an old Heathkit Warrior, which is 4811A's, which I seldom use anymore for anything. It's just most of the time. I have a Swan 1200. I use that usually for classic exchange or low power CW content when I'm using my novice bridge. I put that into the antenna circuit, and that boosts the X20s and Viking Adventures to about 100 watts output. Again, seldom used. And the other one that's really kind of my favorite that I got at a garage sale where people were throwing things out is a little 6L6 amplifier, 4 6L6s in parallel. It's built through the power supply on a chassis that's, I'm looking at it, probably 5 by 8 inches and 3 inches deep. And all it is a grounded grid amp for 75 meters. And probably puts out 50 watts or so. And all it is the 4 tubes and a Pi network, and the incredibly small number of parts. I don't know where the diagram came from or the history of it. And why do I have it? It's 75 and 80 meters only. I have a Central Electronics 28. It puts out about 8 watts or so. And sometimes I use it with the 28 to get me into the net here. It's kind of a cute little thing. It's very unusual. A lot of times I have my Valiant in an operating position. I use that as an amp for the 28, but when it's not, like it is now, if I had to pull out the 28, that's the amp that I would use. But I seldom, 90% of the time, I would say, I'm not using amps anyway. Okay, thanks for taking the net. Stay dry, everybody. Steve, W56W. If you're back, K2R.
Thanks very much, Ron. K2RP and the Vintage Single Sideband Roundtable from Dave WI6R here in Kingman, Arizona. And good to be here this evening. Great question.
I don't know if Rocco's probably taken off, but I wish him thanks for taking the earlies, and Max for taking the roundtable tonight. So we're running our KWM2A. I intended to get another rig on the air, but just ran out of time. And I apologize for not getting back on the last time. I had a 440 screw held on the end of a Phillips screwdriver to go into a panel on the bottom of this KWS1 I'm working on. So I couldn't let go. So that's the story there. And by the way, the KWS1 is pristine. No one's touched it. It looks great. So just the 7 deadly caps, I guess, and we might be able to put it back on the air once the power supply is rebuilt. So amplifiers. Well, you know, my first amplifier ever was Dentron Clipperton L. And the first thing I did when I got it, before putting a plug on the power cord, was take the covers off and dump all the wire clippings and stuff out of it. They weren't known for their great assembly work, so I went through it all before I put a plug on the end of the power cord. However, it did absolutely fantastic service for more than a decade without any troubles at all. And I still have one of those, although it needs its 572Bs brought back to life. But my favorite amp, and only my second amp ever, was actually a 30L1. And I still have that amplifier, restored it about a dozen years ago. It's ultra reliable. It's easy to use with really anything. I have a little relay keying setup I did for modern radios. It works great. Although I do have a modern LDMOS linear that's capable of 1,500 watts out with about 30 watts of drive. So that's actually kind of helpful for running the Central Electronics 20A. I could get some decent output out of that, and that's my amplifier. That LDMOS is my amplifier for the modern here anyway. And the antenna tonight, this is our N6BT open ring radial vertical antenna. It's 37 feet tall. It has a dual coil tornado drive, which allows me to run across the entire 80-meter band, and it works pretty well. I worked Congo barefoot with 100 watts with it, as well as working them on 40 and 20. So it does a good job for DX, which is its intent, and hopefully everybody's copying me tonight. So with that, it's back to you, Max. KJ6HN from WI6R.
Wow, great signal, Dave, and the last 4 stations as well. All really good signals.
And a comment to you, Ron, K2RP. Interesting stories about your amplifiers. And I think you've got some age on me, and so some experience as well. But that's really interesting. And I posed the question the way I did because I know that some people here may not have an amplifier, some people may have one, and some people may have several. Dennis with his 15 amplifiers, yeah, that's pretty good. I did a little mind research. I've got 5, and I'll comment here. I'll take my own turn. My all-time number 1 go-to linear amplifier is my Collins 30S1, but as some of you may know, the rear of the band switch, kind of a printed circuit board affair with specialized silver-plated contacts, carbon-tracked and arced and burned out and seized, and I have not made much progress on that. The screws, the little 632 screws and 840 screws that hold it into the chassis are stainless steel. Once you get the nut and the lock washer and the washer off that, down into the bilge they go, and you can't use a magnet to fish them out. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the 30S1. I definitely want to get it back on the air again, but it's going to be a long-term and tricky and patience-testing project. So, meanwhile, my number 2 go-to amplifier is the Alpha 77SX, which runs a pair of 8877 triodes, grounded grid. And after I got this amplifier a few years ago, I plugged it into a dummy load, and I wanted to see just what that puppy could do. And that puppy can do about 4,300 watts into a dummy load. And I didn't key it up for very long. I just wanted to see what it could do, and that was at almost full grid amperage and full plate voltage. So what an amplifier. Definitely something to have, especially if there was an emergency to be able to get through. But I'm running it at the legal limit right now, or close to. So that's my favorite go-to amplifier. I've also got a 30L one, and I've got a homebrew amplifier that I got from a friend of my Elmer when I lived in Lone Pine back in the early 1980s. And that one's going to need to be completely gone through, power supply caps and all that stuff. Oh, and one more, I have a Johnson Thunderbolt. And again, that one's been offline for long enough, it'll need to be gone through too. So that's what I've got in my shack. And let's see if there's anybody else who'd like to check in. Give me a call, KJ6HN.
I don't hear anybody. I heard some static. So it goes over to my neighbor to the north, W7MS in Reno, Nevada. And then, Mike, would you please hand it over to N6WHK, and then over to K6LGL, and then skip over to Chuck N6AF, and then Chuck back over to me, please. So there's the second round. Up to you, Mike. W7MS in the group, KJ6HN.
Well, thank you, Max. KJ6HN, W7MS, Mike in Reno. Well, good evening to all the folks here on this Vintage Sideband Roundtable, and maybe to the folks listening in. But good conditions tonight, and weather update. It's down to 16 degrees here, and continuing to fall through the net here from a temperature standpoint. So back to business. W7MS Mike in Reno this evening, running the one of my Drake stations. That's the Drake TR7A. And that's slaved with a Drake R7. The R7 is calling the shots here from a frequency standpoint, but also using the external synthesized VFO, the RB75, to excite the R7, which tells the TR7A which frequency to transmit on. Also running the Drake L7 amplifier, and completed, of course, the matching TR7 line Drake microphone, and the model number escapes me, so that's the way that goes. It's not on the microphone, so I can't fake it. But let me see. To the question of the evening, I would, we've already hit this. I'm number 3 in the 30S1 boat. But I would say that I have 3 30S1s, one in each of my 3 studios, A, B, and C. So love the 30S1. It's a relative beast by today's standards, being a console device, but it's fun and cool, and as Dennis had mentioned, quite quiet. And very conservative for the era in which it was designed in the late 1950s. But yes, so we'll give a synopsis of amplifiers. But here in Studio A, I had to count several times. I chuckled to Dennis. Yeah, you always come up with another one stuffed in the corner, but I came up with 14 standalone amplifiers, 2 of which are home built. And I have 3 that are system dedicated in this Studio A, 2 for the HF80 equipment and 1 for the URC92 Sun Air system. So just too many amps. But we won't talk about B and C. So that's my vote, 30S1. So over to you, Phil. N6WHK W7MS.
W7MS, November 6th, Whiskey Hotel Kilo. Well, fine, Ben, a good copy on everybody tonight. I love the band the way it is. No computer. I have 3 amps. I'm running a Heath kit and my Swan through 1 amp. It's a Marathon. It's fairly modern. Then I have an L4B that I run through with my AM equipment, which works beautifully. And of course, I have a modern one for the modern equipment, a PW1, which really works well. I don't know which would be my favorite. It would have to be the band I'd be on at the moment.
And right now, what I have working on this with the Swan here, I really enjoy it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my neighbor, K6LGL. Over to you, Skip. Pick it up, N6WHK.
Okay, thank you very much, Phil. N6WHK there in San Diego area. K6 Little Green Light in Santa Monica by the Bay for the Village Sideband net. Thanks to Rocco doing the earlies and to you there over there in the high desert. Max, okay. Well, I built my first amplifier was on VHF, around 6 meters. It was cycle 19th in 1958. I built actually a Class C amplifier from my kilowatt, AM kilowatt. I also had a change bias supply, could run as a linear amplifier, I had that option, but I was running 3,800 volts on push-pull 4-400. So at that voltage, you can kick out almost an honest kilowatt out. So that was the first one. That was 1958, and my mentor at that time was Dr. Roy Brady, W6 UNX, I guess it was called. I forget, he's silent T now. Passed on many years ago. And then I built amplifiers for 432, 1296, and so on, VHF, UHF. And then when I got back to HF here about 25 years ago, I got hold of a modified AL80. There's an early Ameritron. I used that for a while. And then, and also on 6 meters, I used an Apollo 6 with 8236s, and I started to rebuild them with 572Bs. And a little bit more plate dissipation, I could probably get an additional 200 watts output. But, so that was a work in progress. And then I also home-built amplifier that will do a close to a kilowatt out, and that is my series 4CX250s amplifier. I haven't used that very much. It needs a little work. It needs a new output relay there. So that's sort of waiting. But my workhorses every day is 572Bs. Tried amplifiers. I run them on AM and run them in the linear mode and so on. And they do very well at about 2,500 volts on the plate in the sideband mode. You can't quite do that on AM. But about 230B works out quite good. So that's the story on that. Variety of amplifiers. Some in better working condition than others. All right, back to you there, I guess, Max. And hey, good condition so far. A little QSB on some signals, but hey, it's winter time, and let's hope the band doesn't do any worse than it is. KJ6HN and the vintage sideband net. K6 Little Green Light, Santa Monica by the Bay.
Goes over to you, Chuck, N6AF, and then back to me.
Great. Just waiting for it to get squared away there. November 6 Alpha Fox. Let me see. On the Atlas 210X, that was a broken radio that I bought cheap and troubleshot it and fixed it. And I'm just going to go against the grain of my answer to tonight's question, but I'm running tonight that Atlas 210X through a what I would call a semi-homebrew solid-state amp comprised of 4 Motorola MRF 421s. It can produce well over 600 outs, but I've got the output of the Atlas padded down. I'm just running about 300 or so out. So my answer to the amplifier question, I have 6 or 7, maybe 8 amplifiers here. But my answer is a seasonal answer. In the summertime,
when it gets a little bit toasty in the shack, I will run the solid state amp. And I'm not kidding here. By and large, this time of year, I'm running my SB220 because I love the little bit of heat that comes off the front of that on my desk here early in the morning. I don't turn the central heating on in the house, and I run that amp, so I enjoy its contribution to entropy as well as its amplification. So wintertime, SB220. Summertime, solid state. One of you gentlemen was mentioning that you'd lost some hardware, dropped it down into the crankcase, so to speak, and not magnetic. But what I've done in the past is if I know where that little 256 nut or whatever is sitting down there in the corner, I will take a bit of very sticky tape. It could be some especially sticky electrical tape, and kind of work it out so it's inside out on the end of a long stick, and then poke that stick down in there, and you might have to invent a couple of new swear words, but by the time you get done, out it comes, and voila, you've fished it out of there. So that's one of the tricks I've used before. All right, so back to you then. Thanks for running the show there, sir. KJ6HN, N6AF.
Well, Chuck, that's a good idea about the sticky tape. KJ6HN here. If you or anybody is familiar with the inside of the 30S1, you've got the tuning capacitor above the band switch and the band switch below, and it's not really just losing those stainless steel nuts down in the bilge, but it's how to get them back on again, because I have come to believe that the internal major parts, like the band switch, were built into the inside of the chassis before the outside of the chassis was formed around it. I can't see any other way of them having done it. So it's not just fishing the fasteners back up from the bilge, but how to get that whatever, even if I use a galvanized or a steel fastener system to hold the band switch in. I really can't get my fingers down into where they need to be. So I'm kind of at a standstill on that. And I may be at a standstill for quite some time till I can figure it out, since I can't take the external chassis components apart. But thanks for the idea. That's a good one. Sticky tape, yep, on a chopstick or something like that to go down into the bilge to get those fasteners back up again. Let's see. Is there anybody else who'd like to join in? Please give me a call, KJ6HN. Nothing heard. The gang's all here. We're all on the same boat. Alrighty then. So let's go on to, let's see, did I say everything I needed to say? Oh, after the first go-around, WI6R was off frequency, and I tuned down to him, and I forgot to retune back to 3895, so pardon me for that faux pas. I'll pay more attention in the future. It goes over to W6WUH, and then Larry handed over to Bob, WA9JIB, Bob over to K6KOI, and then let me make a little note here. K6KOI over to November 4 Delta Lima Alpha, and then DLA back over to me, please, and we'll see what's up after that. So up to you, W6WUH in the group, KJ6HN.
Okay, Max, KJ6HN in the group. W6WUH with the Swan SS200 driving the SB200. But not at 200 watts. Golly, well, the run-of-the-mill amplifier is the SB200. It's small. It doesn't get very hot. It's very versatile, very reliable, very quiet, and it just does what I need it to do. before I got it, I used a Gonset GSB 101, which is a large footprint amplifier, but very nice because of that. 4/811As in grounded grid, and that amplifier was designed to work with separates, with a separate receiver and transmitter. So if you're of that persuasion, an amplifier like that, or maybe the Warrior, which is very similar, or the Mars SP1000, if you can find one, which is a clone of that amplifier, is a great bet, because you don't. Otherwise, I had to rewire the TR switch to make it work with transceivers, but a very, very reliable amplifier. The SP200 just does the same thing with a lot smaller form factor. I've never had a 30L1, and I've looked inside them, and I think it's got to be the cobbiest thing that Colin's ever made. I can't see myself wanting one, although obviously they work well, and everybody says they're reliable, but I guess if you don't open the lid, maybe they swell. The other thing I have here that I haven't been using with the vintage gear much, but I will as I get more familiar with it, is a grid-driven linear amplifier, in this case the Ten-Tech Titan 2. And it's got about a 40 to 1 amplification factor, which means that some of my little radios that only will put out 5 or 10 watts can drive it to a fairly substantial amount of output, because it's a legal limit plus amplifier. Whereas when I drive the SP200 with them, I'm looking at 80 watts of output or something like that, which sometimes is not as much as you're after.
Right.
So I don't know. I favor the vintage amplifiers without a bunch of fancy solid state stuff in them. I have an SP200 here that
all I can tell you is that he's bleeding all over 3900, and it's making it pretty hard for us to talk. 5 kCs away, you're taking up too much bandwidth with that overdriving the amp.
If you've got it in good settle, it's going to...
Well, I could sit out here and I could break out the good book and read to you. Would that be all right with you if I can't talk up 5 kCs away from you and we were there before you guys were? I could probably just hang out here and maybe read you out of the good book till you get some manners.
You don't want anything bad to happen to it. You don't worry about the heat kit. So that's all I can say there. And I haven't got the experience with much of anything else on HF. WA9JIB, W6WUH.
You're bleeding 5 kCs all over us on 3900. If you don't mind not driving the amp or the modulation, you're splattering all over the place.
Oh, well, I apologize. Let me crank my modulation down. I had the scope on, but I'll turn the gain down.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you ever so much. Continue.
I apologize. W6WUH.
Okay, this is WA9JIB. Let me make sure I've got it and that I'm not splattering.
Yeah, that was N6NTM for Will ID for that gentleman.
Okay, all right, this is W6WUH. WA9JIB, Bob over here in Sonoma.
Where we had a nice sunny day today too, but fairly chilly. Stay fairly cool, but I think dry for a while. Anyway, so tonight I am running my Green Helicopter station, although it starts with the MC50 mic. Helicopter's H232B, SX115 is the receiver, R48 speaker, and I go through a tuner, MFJ tuner I got from K2RP. And the antenna is the dipole inverted V. It comes off a 35-foot mast, which I feed with coaxial cables. Let's see, on to the question. I'm not a big amplifier kind of guy. I think for most purposes I don't really need one. I can be heard with my 100 to 200 watters, and if conditions are that lousy, the amp isn't going to help. The main thing I think they're really useful for is DX pile-up.
So, but anyway, I do have one. It's the Yaesu FL2100B, which goes with my Yaesu FD101E station, which I'm not using this evening. And of course, that runs a pair of 572Bs. And I fortunately have a couple of spares on those, which I will probably never need, but otherwise it's nice to have them. As a teenager, when I had an HT37, I did have an HT41, the model that goes with it, and I didn't use it much, but it was a beautiful amp, and one of life's few regrets is that I let that go. They're rare, they're hard to find, and had a couple of spare 7094 tubes for it, too. So I shouldn't have let that one go. But just to prove how non-amplifier I am, there's a ham down the hill from me who's got, I'm told, a Hallicrafter's Loudon boomer. But I think it's really an HT33 amp that if anybody wants to cart it away, it's theirs for the taking. So, and I haven't run down there yet, but I probably will go check it out. And if it were the HT33B, which is the amp that goes with the pair I'm running tonight, I probably would grab it just to have it. But if it's the earlier model, I'm not sure. The folks who told me about it says it's incredibly heavy, which makes it sound like an HT33, because if it were the Loudon boomer, I think also known as the HT45, the RF deck is separate from the power supply, so they would be both more manageable. But I'll probably go down and check it out. Whether or not I'll take it or not, I don't know. I just don't have the room for it. And, you know, I'd probably like about 110 pounds or something like that. My back wouldn't have liked that. Anyway, so that's the amplifier story here at JIB. Only have one and that's really in a lash up at the moment, the SL2100B, which I rarely use. Moving on to K6. K6KOI, WA9JIB.
Very good, K6KOI. Well, before I forget, Bob, be careful if you get that Loudon boomer. I had one, and it's one of the few amplifiers where the bleeders were bad, and it's a good thing I discharged the caps. I could have gotten zapped good. So anyway, they're old, and you know, things go. I'm using Atlas 350XL and driving a LD Moss amplifier, homebrew, running about 400 watts, something like that, not hitting it too hard. And so as far as favorite amps, well, amps are my favorite thing, so I've got a bunch of them, and I've categorized how I like them. And the prettiest I have is a National NCL 2000. It's just drop dead gorgeous. And the best QSK amplifier I have is the Titan, a Tentec Titan 1, or the Hallicraft KPA 500. They're both really cool as far as CW. And the Hallicraft is kind of interesting because it uses QSK where the amplifier keys the transceiver, something I incorporated in one of my solid-state amps that I built. And let's see, the most used one is the RF kit. It's two devices, two LD Moss devices. Use that with my ICOM 7610. And the most enjoyable amp is one of my two homebrew amps, the one I use with the KX3. It's also LD Moss, and I get to go from 3 watts to 800 watts with a flip of a switch, and it shocks people. I'm working. When I do that, it's just kind of a fun thing to do. And one final comment, which is to Max. Max, Chuck kind of stole my theme out of the sails here. I was going to suggest something similar, and that is the use of coax seal on the end of a stick. I use that stuff for all sorts of purposes. I use it to hold screws on screwdrivers and pick up loose hardware that's non-metallic, etc. So that stuff really is handy. And that's it. It's over to Matthew, N4 DLA K6KY.
K6KY from N4 DLA. This is Matthew in Orinda, California. About 15 miles east of San Francisco, about 47 degrees out, and using tonight the Atlas 210X with the Shure 444 microphone, sloping 75-meter coaxial dipole up at 60 feet on one end, and no amplifier, because some hams have told me that N4DLA stands for doesn't like amplifiers. I guess because I do QRP CW on HF. My first rig, which I still have, is a Ten-Tech Argonaut 509. I bought in 1977, right after I was first licensed. And then the ARL, or the FCC, rather, the FCC linear band was kicking in soon in early 1978. So I managed to mow enough lawns to get money together for a Model 405 amplifier, which I believe was $140. That's a 50-watt amp that is driven by the Ten-Tech Argonauts 1 to 3 watts out. And that's my vintage amplifier. There's no others in service here other than on VHF and UHF. And I really can't use the UHF one anymore because of pave pause. So that one's kind of in reserve. So otherwise, no heavy iron or anything. But I do echo K6KOI's statement about that national amplifier. I've never seen one in person, but I've seen photos of it. Pretty impressive, nice mid-1960s styling. And WA9JIB, Bob, you were right on frequency, at least on this old Atlas 210X of mine. So I'll turn it back to Max, KJ6HN from N4DLA.
All right. Pretty good signal from Orinda there, N4DLA. I had to turn up my gain a little bit, but 100% copy. Well, okie dokie. Yeah, so we had a report of a Jason splatter there. That's something we need to keep in mind. No, hey, we don't want to interfere with others. We don't want others to interfere with us. So let's see. Coming sort of close to the top of the hour, let's take the final. Well, let's see if anybody else is out there waiting to check in. Call KJ6HN.
WA6JUF.
WA6JUF. I've got you added to the list. Anybody else? All right, well, that makes 6 for the final round. So we'll divide it up into 3. So KB7LOQ, you're up next. And then Kevin, WA6JKN, send it over to Dave, WJ6W. And then Dave, send it back to me, and I'll carry on. So KB7LOQ to take it, KJ6HN is the group.
Yeah, notice his splattering on us now.
KJ6HN, this is KB7LOQ. Max, thanks for taking the net tonight. You sound like a professional broadcaster. Great job. Hello to John, JUS, and Bob. On the TR-78 tonight, barefoot, using a Shure 4440D. I think I got one too many 4s in there. Hi. On to the question. I'm using an SB220 Heath kit for my vintage work. I've got an AL82 and an AL80A and an AL80B for modern stuff. I had everything a long time ago and then sold most of it in the late 90s. And just in the last couple of years started picking some stuff up. I've got a Hallicrafters Loudon boomer, and thank you, John, for mentioning that. That's on the list. I've got a long list of repairs. I picked up in Phoenix at the swap meet in December a B&W 2500 running a pair of 3-500s. It works, but I don't want to use it till I go through it. I've got two 30L1s that work, but need to go through. I've got a FL2100B that somebody put an external band switch on for the 40-meter band, and that's going to be a big project. And then I've got a couple of one mint Dentron GLA 1000. They run 4 LQ6s, and I got that from one of my old ham friends at estate sale, and he had it hooked up to a TS520, so that's going to be a combo for me. Loved the HT41, had one like you did, Bob. The HT33 series, I think the original HT33 had a pair of odd duct tubes that put out about 600 watts maybe. I had one of those. And the 33A and the 33B had the big tube that'll put out 1,000, 1,200 watts. Bring a hand truck. That'd be cool if you got it, but probably would need some restoration to make sure it's safe. So anyhow, good copy tonight and interesting subjects. WA6JKN, KB7LOQ.
Well, you know, most
okay, thank you very much. Let's see here, LOQ. Thank you very much. This is Kevin, WA6JKN in Gilroy, and I'm running the Collins KW Sugar 1 tonight, and the 75A4 into a fan dipole up about 40 feet at the apex. Good comments all the way around. I just love the question. Of course, I haven't been a vintage sideband follower for that long, but I haven't heard it either, so my hat's off to the author of that question. Well, anyway, amplifiers. Well, I can think of three of them at the moment. The Kenwood TL922 Alpha, that's a good-looking amp, 3500Zs, works really well. I won't talk about its modifications that were made 30 years ago, but it's a good amp. I love it. And the other amp, one of my earlier amps was the SSB 200. That was a beautiful amp. I put a lot of mileage on that amp, and it worked well on all modes, including AM. Let's see, what else? The commercial amp that I have here is the Sun Air, or the GSL, Sun Air amplifier. It's a GSL 1900 Alpha. Has a single ceramic tube in it, and it's fully automatic, and it's 100% duty cycle. You can key down 24/7, 7 days a week, and come back, and it's still putting output very nicely. So that's my favorite tube amp right there, is the GSL 1900. The favorite solid state amp was the one I just recently purchased about a month ago, and that's the Mercury Lux. I got to say that one more time. Mercury Lux. It's a new amp made in America, and the reason I chose it and the reason I love it so much is because I can drive it full legal limit on AM, and it handles it quite nicely. And also, of course, it follows all the bands. I have antennas 20 through 6 meters and 40, 75, and it automatically switches to those antennas when I switch the transceiver. So that's pretty cool. And of course, in order to do that, I guess you can have an antenna tuner, but all my antennas are resonant, so I don't have to worry about that. It's got the memories built in. But here's the thing. All my bird watt meters, all my antenna switches in the antenna distribution system, they're all now obsolete. With the new solid state stuff, it's all done inside the box, and I like that. It's got the forward power, the reflected power, it calculates the SWR, the current, the voltage, as well as the temperature, and it has intelligence built in to make sure an old guy like me doesn't have a what do they call it, a senior moment, and I do something wrong, the amplifier protects itself and shuts down. So that's just perfect for me. And I'm just going to say, just for fun, when I'm running the ICOM 7610, driving the Mercury Lux amplifier in the AM mode, I refer to it as the all-band super-duper senior combination. Yeah, the all-band super-duper senior combination that runs full legal limit without any dropouts. So how about that for fun? So let's see. That's pretty much it. The only other thing I'll say about my favorite solid state amp is the fan. It's got a great big ginormous heat sink, which I like, but it has a fan that has 2 speeds, and I refer to those 2 speeds as quiet and quieter. So how about that? Let's keep it moving here. That's my contribution. Over to you, Dave. WJ6W, WA6JKN.
WA6JKN, this is WJ6W. We live here in Tarzana, California, and we're running our Drake sea line here. Tonight, the R4C has a VFO stabilizer in it, which works really nicely. And let's see, the amplifier is our 30L1. So getting on to the question of the evening, I have 2 amplifiers here. One's a 30L1 and the other is a 30L1. I did run into some trouble with one once, and of my own doing, and I decided, I'm going to get a spare, and I found one for a good price. So I have 2 of them, and so I don't have much experience with other amplifiers. I'll take Larry's word for it on the 30L1 that it looks like it's more crowded, or I'm not sure what you were referring to, Larry, there, but I have had to work on it. It is sort of a pain, but I don't have experience with any other one. So anyway, what I do like about it, it's easy to tune, very reliable, and it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful next to my the rest of my S-line here. So anyway, that's my story on that, and I was going to mention to recommend coaxial, for you, Max, rather. I was going to mention coaxial too.
Yeah, right.
I knew that wasn't my idea. So now I know where I got the idea. It was from John. So thank you very much, John. And that was what I was going to recommend. So anyway, I'm going to send over to George, W6YEC, WJ6W.
Yeah, okay, I think, Max, did you want it back?
Go ahead and take it, George. We'll do the last 3, and then we'll end the net.
Okay, very good. I messed up once. I didn't want to mess up twice. Anyway, good evening to everybody. Beautiful signal, great copy on one and all, Max. Excellent job as always. W6YEC, George down here in Lemon Grove, and tonight we're running the TS520 Sugar, driving a 30L1. Boy, that's been mentioned tonight, and they're not too bad to work on. Excuse me, but at any rate, that's the amp of choice for this particular transceiver. It's worked out very well. But I think the focal point was the favorite. So I'm going to mention the favorite. We've got 6. But the favorite is the MLA 2500. And the reason it's the favorite is because it's compact, so it sits on a shelf, and 160 through 10 meters, and it's the design is very nice meters. The front is very attractive, I think, and there was something like, 1,500 watts. It'll do more than that, actually. So easy legal limit. I always run it at half power with the duty cycle, cut down, because it just doesn't need to run that high. So, and I run it with this particular amp. I do use it with my 7600, but I have a switch, so I run my Globe Scout through it for about legal limit, and I run a 7000 through it, ICOM, and some other sideband stuff. At times I'll run through the amplifier. So it does well for AM and it does well for sideband. I've had it for a long time now. Got it at a barbecue up there at George's, HCX's. And cord had been cut, had to replace that, and some problems in the relay system. I forget it all. But anyway, we got it working, and it has just been a wonderful, wonderful amplifier. So, I didn't hear one mentioned tonight, so the Dentron MLA 2500. With that, DJ, I messed up. Didn't give it to you. I don't know why. I knew I was supposed to, but for some reason Larry was sticking in my brain, and I wrote his call down. Oh, boy. I guess it's age. K6RCL. Take it away, DJ. W6YEC.
I have that effect on people.
W6YEC, K6RCL. Okay, real good, George.
DJ here in Goleta. Right on the ocean here. Drying out. The dam's full. The streams are running. The rivers are running. We've got lots of water. Hopefully we'll get a little more. We've had 14.5 inches here for the season. But I'll tell you what, the grounds are superb. My ground rods are happy campers. Oh, we're running a 10-Tech 544. That's a digital 73-74 vintage transceiver made by 10-Tech down in Sevierville, Tennessee. And I'm using a Swan mic. Which I think sorry, it's not a Swan. It says Swan. It says Cubic down on the base. That's an interesting one. My amplifiers, I have three. I have a 30L1. I have a 10-Tech Tight Gold, which is a pair of 3CX800 AXs or 8s, whatever. And I have a Drake L4B. Those are the three amplifiers. Now, of the three, I use the 30L1 the most, and one of the reasons is in some areas of the shack, I only have 120 volts, so I can cheat a little bit, plug in the 30L1, which will use either 240 or 120. And with that, because I don't want to take more than my 2 minutes, and so I'm going to pass it to K6JUS. Thank you, Max, for handling it. And also, I wouldn't be caught doing it on that kind of week. Guys, right. That took me early. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for everything. Have a great day and a great tomorrow. K6RCL, DJ and Goleta.
Why you need a radio if you're traveling?
From Whiskey Over 6 Juliet Uniform Sierra. Great.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that, but that's true.
Okay. On this particular amplifier, it's really the only amplifier that is capable, but I've never used it as such. It's a big AM transmitter, the Big Bamboo. It has a switch on the front that allows you to move the bias from minus 68 to minus 40 volts, and according to its maker, if you do that, you can run a transceiver into it and use the same 4-250 push-pull as a linear amplifier. But I would want somebody else here before doing that. And fortunately, these conditions have not, I haven't been foolish enough to attempt that. That's really all I can say. Just great to hear all you guys. Wonderful conditions. I think it goes back to network, net control. This is WA6JUS in San Diego.
Echo link is pretty simple.
Yes, back to net control. Thank you very much.
Well, anybody else looking to check in? Call KJ6810.
Just making a phone call.
Well, good. I think we have enough people here. So, that was pretty good. I racked my brain to come up with a question that hasn't quite been asked yet. And I thought that was a good one about amplifiers and about which one is your favorite and so on and so forth. So everybody reported pretty well on what their favorites were. Some had just one or two, some had 6 or 7. That's okay. We had plenty of time. And I got to tell you, I can't really honestly hand out a Gold Cup Award because all the stories were so varied and interesting that they're all great. So everybody did well. Bear in mind, in the past, I have handed out a gold and a silver and a bronze cup award. So this kind of makes up for too many awards and now no awards. So I hope everybody's okay with that. And I didn't really take super good notes, but it looks like 4 people had Collins 30S1s, 5 people, or maybe 6 people had Collins 30L1s, and the rest was kind of a mixture of various amplifiers. Just like there's so many radios around that we use, vintage radios especially, there's so many different amplifiers made by so many different people, many of whom are no longer in business, but we keep them going, don't we? So with that, I'm going to say thanks everybody for checking in. It's been a lot of fun, and it was a great topic, if I don't say so myself. And we will get together again next Tuesday when, let's see, who's the, well, I sent it out in the groups.io message for who's going to be the host and who's taking early check-ins. So 73, everybody, thanks for participating, and we'll look forward to getting back together again next Tuesday. 73 from KJ6HN.